A short and sharp stage into Marche, an explosive finale, the Maglia Rosa having the nerve to attack the GC race, and another victory for UAE Team Emirates and the almighty Ecuadorian Jhonatan Narvaez. A day that had it all. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe now. So welcome to For the Love of Cycling on Stage 8, where the dust has settled on a terrific day of racing. It was always one, I think, Jacopo, we were looking forward to this one, wasn't it? Partly because you told me that if you were going to live anywhere else in Italy other than where you live in Emilia-Romagna, you would move to Marche.
Yeah, I mean, it's in our background. Maybe the light is not ideal at this point because some clouds up here, but it is amazing,
That's
right?
beautiful.
You have the sea, you have those hills picking up, and then those villages nested on top. It's an amazing region. You eat good. I mean, every part of Italy, but it's a very special one. I love it here.
No, it's really good. But also the bike racing, this is what the amazing thing about bike racing is, the characteristics of the bike race in Marche are literally defined by the history of Marche, by the fact that these medieval towns have been built on the top of these little hills, and the racing always goes to the top of these little towns and through the middle and out the other side, and they're steep, aren't they? So the bike racing itself is kind of has completely identifiable characteristics.
Yeah, like seems like in this part of Italy, airpins were not invented when they were building roads, apparently, because all the climbs, as you mentioned, they're really steep, always very uneven, you know,
Yep.
in the percentage, but steep straight into the villages and often on top with the little cobbles, and they're very distinctive. And every time we come here, it's like always like the stage of the Mure is either in Tirreno Adriatico or in the Giro d'Italia like this time, but you know it's going to be nasty. And today, I mean, just 4 climbs, you
Yep.
know, and
Yep.
just 2 that were really like steep like you used to be,
Yep.
you know, in the Mure. But the first 2 were quite easy, I would say, in a way.
Yep.
But then it was enough to ignite the race. I mean, it was ignited much before, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a fast and furious.
Yeah.
I think like roughly 45, 46 average. It was very fast.
By the time they got to the end, which
Yeah.
is crazy,
It's
considering the final gradients where they're literally climbing in their lowest gear at walking pace.
And it was headwind most of the day.
Quite a strong headwind, as
Yeah.
you might notice. Another really sort of quite chilly and windy day in Italy, which is becoming deeply abnormal. And frankly, Italy sorted out. I mean, a lovely country, Jacopo, but the weather has been massively disappointing. It's warmer in London than it is in.
You just
in
saying
Marche.
that because you completely made it wrong with the luggage, didn't you? Like you just left on all the warm clothing.
Completely. Unfortunately, I came here from West Africa as well, so I really wasn't prepared.
Tracking light.
Yeah. All right. So rewinding a little bit, the race rolled out of Chieti, which is a
Exactly.
beautiful place today, and with a
Hometown of.
Giulio Ciccone was born in Chieti, and we saw Giulio Ciccone riding on the bumper of Stefano Allocchio's race director's car, screaming for Haribo this morning. He was literally shouting, wasn't he? Where are the sweets?
And then eventually Allocchio appears with a big bag of
Haribo's.
Haribos
Let's-
getting
yeah,
out to
yeah.
Van Etveld,
Yeah.
was there, Gualdi,
Yeah. Yeah.
Ciccone, of course.
I mean, it was. Let's get technical. It was Haribo Star Mix, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
think so.
I don't know whether the Giro d'Italia has a sponsorship deal with another sweets brand, but I do notice they've taken the label off, so it's
Could be.
but it's
Could be.
clearly Haribo Star Mix. And I thought it was quite controversial that all the riders were going for those quite fat, long ones with the white base that's a little bit
The
soft.
crocodiles.
The crocodiles, not my favourite in a Star Mix, to be honest. But you know, but
Yeah.
what do I know?
But it's funny because, you know, you see 2 things, like I want to point out. First, like everybody taking candies from the same box, you know, with their own hands while they're racing, and then Vingegaard like not daring to shake the hands of the people because scared of the germs, you know.
Two different approaches.
Completely different approaches.
Absolutely. Giulio Ciccone was expected to go on the attack, and I mean, when the flag dropped and we started getting the kind of like sequence of attacks, and the first 2 hours were raced at what?
51?
52 kilometres an
51,
hour,
yeah,
almost
51,
51.7, something like that.
Was-
Absolutely insane. There was barely a rider in the peloton who at one point or other didn't attack, apart from the GC riders.
And
And even the GC riders, Giulio Ciccone
Giulio
went on the
Ciccone,
attack.
there was a moment before that. There was for almost an hour an attack from Filippo Ganna and Alberto Bettiol. They were hoping somebody to being able to rejoin them at the front, but it was not the case. I
Yeah.
think they were up there for almost an hour.
Yeah.
There was also a brief moment, and that was the defining moment where a large group was created, but like a kilometer before that, there was one attack. You know, another groups coming together. Then Mikkelberg attacked alone. Jhonatan Narvaez responded immediately and then was joined by almost like a few seconds later by Andrea Leknessund. It took him a little bit longer than he wanted.
Yeah.
And at that moment, exactly, the peloton split in two, and there was Maglia Rosa, Eulalia at the front, and Jai Hindley.
Yeah.
And like all the GC contenders, I think they didn't realize quite immediately who was up there. But then there was sparks of reaction from behind. And that was the moment where the trio moved a little bit more clear, but they were there. I mean, they had 50 meters gap of this large group.
It just goes to show that anything can happen at any time. I mean, normally it doesn't, but you never know. And on a relatively sort of straightforward looking day along the coast there, that little bit of wind, that relentless pace just split the peloton. And if the division in the peloton had been slightly different, so imagine if Pellizzari had been in the front along with Hindley and the rest of his team, you would have had Red Bull Hansgrohe drilling it. And that would have been potentially a really difficult moment for Visma Lease Bike and for
they didn't try to take benefit of it. They just Mick van Dijk at the front and Eulalia. I think he had maybe Segard or another rider we haven't seen actually who was in there. So they didn't have quite the numbers to put Visma a little bit, in danger, like forcing them to push hard.
Yeah.
And but nonetheless, they show like from two riders, I think they're racing brilliantly this beginning of Giro d'Italia. It's Jai Hindley and Eulalia. More to come from Eulalia later on, but nonetheless, both of them are like super surprised, super pleased to see how they're racing.
He's rapidly becoming one of our favourite bike riders, isn't he? Alfonso Eulalia.
Totally.
Really good. You've already said that this trio of riders, Jhonatan Narvaez, Mikkelberg and Andreas Leknessund, had established a bit of a lead. But a couple of important details before that, I think. One is Jonathan Milan tried to repeat the tactic of yesterday and get in the breakaway and score points at the intermediate sprint. But today, Paul Magnier was not having it at all, and he shadowed him every single step of the way.
Every time we spotted the Jhonatan Milan, he had the red number after yesterday's stage, so it was easy to spot also from far. Every time you see him on the camera, like one position, two position behind Magnier, every time.
Yeah,
he's covering him all the time. Quite a like the way he has to do it. Like yesterday, maybe what Milan has to do was a lot of energy lost. A lot of energy needed to score those points. So this was much easier. So Magnier said, "Okay, no, I'll stay on your wheel," because the sprint was coming after 60 kilometers, I think, into the race. Something like
100, almost 100. Yeah, 100.
It was so fast.
It was so. It felt like 60, but actually it was 100.
It was 2 hours. In 2 hours they were there.
Correct.
Less than 2 hours they were there. We came to the sprint. It was uncontested by the three riders up front.
Yep.
At the back, Visma Lease Bike managed to get back to Eulalia and Hindley, and a large group formed nonetheless, because that was the moment where gaps open up. But in the meantime, 40 seconds they had. Mikkelberg, Jhonatan Narvaez, and Andreas Leknessund. We head to the first climb, where again chaos. Behind was chaos. The only quiet place in the whole race was up front. They were the only riders that were working evenly on each other, right? Yeah,
there were like 34 riders, I think, in the big chase group. The peloton by now had accepted it. They'd blocked. They'd said, all right, the victory goes to the breakaway. But that 35 rider group, there were multiple. There were 3 riders from Movistar there. There were 2 riders from Unibet Rose Rockets. There were. I don't even know where to begin. There was almost every rider had a teammate there, and so you would have thought that a little bit of organisation could have sort of like started to work in that group, and they could have done something about the 50 seconds that Narvaez, etc. had, but no, it was just relentless chaos, wasn't it?
I think it was a matter of legs. Everybody was so much involved into trying to get into the breakaway that I think like the legs were just they weren't there. Everybody seemed like trying briefly, but then they didn't quite have the legs to close the gap, and also the commitment. I think it was lacking because of this. Like it was just a mere about the legs and the energy left in the tank.
Yeah, because it had been just such a hard. They just didn't calm down. Oh, one rider had to abandon today.
Yeah, it was
Fabio Christen, wasn't it? Yeah,
Fabio Christen for a crash. So it made through with Jake Stewart also. Jake
Stewart had to abandon
with a little bit of ribs after the crash in second stage.
Yeah,
and Fabio Christen with a crash, his own fault. He looked back, he touches the wheel of Ryan Mullen. Broken collarbone possibly was
looked
immediately
like straight away bang.
Like 1 second was on the ground, was really touching the right collarbone.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got to that point where the first climb is behind us. No rider is making an inroads to the front of the race. Ivan Romo, who's this big ruler from Movistar, he spent a lot of time just stranded in the gap in between the front of the race and the chase group. The land of nowhere. He got to about 49 seconds and then it went out to over a minute again. At which point you knew that the victory was going to come from one of those three.
Yeah.
Leknessund is a funny rider to read, isn't he? So he's a rider who 3 years ago finished second, I think, to Paris-Roubaix
Yeah, it was him.
down in Basilicata or somewhere like that.
Got the jersey, the
Got
leader
the jersey.
the Maglia Rosa in that particular day. It was kind of a breakthrough. It's a special guy because he comes from Tromsø. It's the only rider born above the
Arctic Circle. Yeah.
I think he was not seeing much sun and training on the bike when he was younger, possibly.
But he looked like he was really on the limit, didn't he? He looked like he was really, I mean, he was suffering.
There was a very good moment. I mean, we saw also on the replay that they shoot the face of Mikkel Bjerg fully like grimace on his face, like suffering.
Yeah, but Mikkel Bjerg looks like that when he gets out of bed in the morning, doesn't he? Like that's just his default face.
Andrea Leknessund even was like, he was like eating like a mouth wide open.
Yeah.
And then Narvaez.
Noodle.
Cool as.
Just like mouth shut, breathing through his nose, looking absolutely perfect. Yeah.
It was an amazing shot there.
It was.
In life, because Narvaez was also the last one. You think like, who's going to win? Like, okay, I got an indication here.
Yeah, I wonder if Jhonatan Narvaez might win this one. Yeah, and I said, that's not a bluff, is it, from Andreas Leknessund? No way was it a bluff. However,
there is a however.
We got to the final couple of climbs, the famous Capo d'Arco climb.
Yeah.
Well, we should say, for the love of cycling colleague Pete Kenyon, a little moment of Kenyon history as we got close to the Capo.
As we said in Italy, go back in the days.
Let's go back in the day, almost 20 years. 18 years ago it was that the 2008 edition of the Gran Premio Capo d'Arco was won by a very young-looking Pete Kenyon, wearing the GB kit ahead of Simon Clark and a bunch of other established pros. It was a really important victory for Pete, actually, in his development as an under-23 runner.
It still exists, the race, as maybe it doesn't quite have the same level as before, but when at that time, I mean, me and Pete, we share almost the same age. It was like here, like if you win Capo d'Arco, you're a big one. You're gonna be super good.
Yep.
And it was an impressive victory also because he was often featuring riders from the area because they knew the parcours. So foreigner winning, I remember it was a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a little bit of history for Pete. But the Capo d'Arco climb featured again today, and it was around about 10 kilometres it started. Mikkel Bjerg, who was always going to empty the tank for Narvaez, that was his whole role there. He decided to attack with whatever he had left. Okay, he accelerated, but he gapped Andreas Leknessund by about 4 bike lengths. Leknessund had to just go quite deep, didn't he, just to close the gap to Bjerg. He had no choice but to do that. And Narvaez, no sooner had Leknessund closed that gap, and quite surprisingly, he attacked him on a not particularly steep part of the climb. A long way out, Narvaez went.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, wasn't expecting that.
And also, like, seems like he didn't quite went deep too much, like just like an acceleration. I think he thought, okay, Leknessund is having a hard time shutting down this little gap on Mikkel Bjerg. For me, it's easy job, right?
Yeah.
And then he went, and Leknessund, he didn't respond. He just was still with the same face as he had 20 kilometers before. He managed to get back in contact.
Yeah, so he did a Felix Gall to Jonas Vingegaard, didn't he? He just level head, you know what to do. You're almost riding to power numbers, like I can do this much. And if it's good, then I'll keep in contact. And that's exactly what happened for quite a while as well.
Yeah, he managed to get back on a wheel of Narvaez. Then eventually Narvaez decided, okay, I go again.
I've got a bit more here.
He did another acceleration. But again, he didn't crack.
Yeah.
I mean, he was constantly 13, 15 seconds. And this was the wall climb of Capo d'Arco. On top, it was 20 seconds, but then he managed again on the descent to come at 13, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
As we approach the city of Fermo, and there is this mighty climb, a 3.5 kilometer to go started. 14.2%. It looked like
40%. It was horrific, wasn't it?
And especially for them, that being like on the road, like at the front the whole day.
It was immense.
Narvaez has this style, like it seems like soft on the pedal in a way where Leknessund is just trying to powering.
Yeah, it's so different in style, weren't they? Yeah.
And that's the time, like you think, okay, it's gonna be over because Leknessund seems like he's standing, like both standing still, but Leknessund even more. But then on top, it flattens out, and again, Leknessund, it's coming back.
Such a resilient performance. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. But then, Narvaez, bit by bit, he just extends
Reopen it up again.
Just, every time it went uphill, he added a few seconds. And by the time he got into Fermo, to the beautiful piazza where we had lunch.
Yeah, it was a good lunch. Artichoke pasta with artichoke, fresh pasta.
Yes, yeah.
With
What do you call it? That pasta?
Chitarrine.
Chitarrine. So there's a particular pasta cutting machine that looks like the strings of a guitar.
Yeah, exactly.
In the
I don't know, because they're
Abruzzo
squared,
Marca.
actually. I never saw a string of a guitar squared.
No, I know, but they push. Yeah, anyway,
Yeah,
it's guitar strings. So that was a very nice lunch. He came past where we had our lunch, and then he turned right-handed for the final 300 meters.
Straight line.
By that time, the victory was complete.
Yeah, was done. And chapeau to him, chapeau to Leknessund. He managed anyway to stay in contact, roughly 30 seconds. And then one by one, all the pieces of the chasers group appeared. The first one was Tiotta, and I go by memory, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't remember the fourth, but
it was Silva, I think. Thomas
was fourth,
Silva.
and
I
then
think he was fourth.
Milesi,
Scaroni, who was like, Scaroni not happy
Very
with
Italian.
that. Yeah, very Italian, very Italian.
and then all the rest. The top 10 was belonging all to the riders in the breakaway.
And it wasn't long until we saw the GC race.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when they were crossing the line, camera, going to the front of the peloton, all of a sudden, Maglia Rosa
attacks,
going on the attack.
Yeah.
So and then we saw a replay. So basically, he was a little bit in 20th position, and at the front seems like they slow it down, and he launches a massive attack.
It's just
with 1.2 kilometers to go.
He's just got a lot of spirit about him, Afonso Eulalia, and he's clearly enjoying the race. I mean, it's just why not? Just give it a nudge. And what I loved about that was Jonas Vingegaard had to react. He got onto his wheel. He didn't come past him. And I think, had it played out differently, I think that Vingegaard would have just ridden on Eulalia's wheel and allowed him to cross the line in first place in the Maglia Rosa of the GC group as a sign of respect, because I think Vingegaard does respect Eulalia greatly. But Jai Hindley changed the script.
Yeah, he went immediately, and as they turned right at roughly 400 meters to go, Jai Hindley decided to give it a go. So showing confirmation of yesterday, what the good performances he had, and showing great panache. I'm happy, super happy to see Jai Hindley being so aggressive. Normally it's more calculating when to do the efforts, but nonetheless, he felt like he might give it a go.
At the moment, he's being Pellizzari.
Yeah.
And Pellizzari is being a bit more Hindley.
Yeah.
It's an interesting reversal.
It's a good, good sense of, he's feeling the race.
Sure.
So he went on it. Vingegaard, at first, he didn't quite manage to close the gap, then eventually he closes. They reached the top with a 2 second margin, 2 second margin over Eulalia. Then was Bernal. So very happy to see him again.
Better performance. Much better performance.
Arensman was there, Pellizzari was there, then all the rest a little bit distanced by 1 second only. Was 1 or 2 seconds? I haven't.
1 second time gap. I'm guessing slightly. I'm guessing. If I'm wrong, my apologies. But there you go.
But all the GC guys were there. Just one were missing. It was Ciccone. He dropped off the GC today, so we might see more to come from him in the next days because he's not the dedicated GC rider of the little track. Is Derek G instead.
Yep.
But I think what we can take from this stage, apart from Narvaez, outstanding performance once again, UAE team members, outstanding performance. There are 2 guys at the front, 2 guys in the chasing group. I think it's Eulalia. We had a proper bike racer here.
Absolutely.
A proper bike racer. And Jai Hindley is strong. He's fitted.
Yep.
And normally it goes better over the 3rd week. So because to see how he evolves.
Yeah, and of course, take nothing away from the winner, Jhonatan Narvaez, because that was another stunning victory from Jhonatan Narvaez, the Ecuadorian champion. And this, in the commentary box, is how Jacopo and I saw that winning ride from Jhonatan Narvaez. Jhonatan Narvaez has got another few hundred metres of sharp ascent as he sweeps right-handed, and ahead of him, he'll see what remains of the climb. Up he goes now. Assured of victory, 300 metres to go for Jhonatan Narvaez, the Ecuadorian national champion. A masterclass, a confident performance, and Eulalia, the Maglia Rosa, attacks the group of favourites there. They watch Eulalia go, and that is a performance of some panache from the Portuguese then, honouring the Maglia Rosa and attacking Vingegaard and the rest. It's Eulalia behind, but at the front of the race, the Ecuadorian, Jhonatan Narvaez. The Giro d'Italia is his stage. Time and time again he proves that he's among the very best stage hunters. A stage that suited him down to the ground in 2026 in a race that could have been a disaster for UAE Team Emirates. It's win number 3 for the team and 2 for Jhonatan Narvaez. A masterclass, simply unbeatable on terrain like that. So there you go, a little glimpse inside the workings of our commentary box again. Let's have a look at tomorrow. It's the last day before the first official proper rest day of the Giro d'Italia that isn't a travel day. And this is what faces the Peloton on stage 9, isn't it? Tomorrow, 9, stage 9. It's a 3-star stage from Cervia to Corno alla Scale, probably mispronounced that, starting almost on the coast at the Adriatic and making its way inland, eventually passing by the great city of Bologna, which is one of the most beautiful cities in all of Italy, isn't it? Would you agree with that?
I love it.
Yep, me too. And then eventually they will head to the only intermediate sprint of the day, and it'll be interesting to see whether we have a few more games between Milan and Magny. And by the way, they've got a new rival in Jhonatan Narvaez in the Maglia Ciclamino. That's the intermediate sprint of the day. Then there are 2 categorised climbs towards the end. A Cat 2 climb just before the Red Bull kilometre. Up and over that, Red Bull kilometre, and then it's a 10-kilometre ascent there to the finish line, a summit finish, and it's an unfamiliar climb to the Giro d'Italia. I think it's the first time that it's appeared on this race, Jacopo. That's a fact I'm going to have to check.
There might be, because often it goes to Sestola, which is not far from there, but Corno alla Scala I also think is the first time.
Yep.
It's not a mighty stage, it's not super hard, but I think we can fairly expect another breakaway going to the line.
That's your prediction, is it? Let's see if you're right tomorrow. Thank you very much for your feedback. We've got a little message here from Ego8336 who says, firstly, thank you for sharing your suffering. True cyclist. I think that was a blockhouse stage of yesterday. Secondly, there cannot be a more perfect pairing.
Huh.
Well,
we make a good couple.
We do. But I mean, to be honest, there could be a more perfect pairing. I'm sure of that. But it's very kind of you to say so. And the rest, because I'm short-sighted, I can't read. Let me just have a look. Just enlarge it slightly. Finally, your analysis of the day is so beautiful and summed up with a perfect amount of culinary input. Well, today it was a little bit average, our culinary input, because all we spoke about was Haribo. I'm sure we'll have to do better than that.
With the pasta, we had a lunch with the artichoke, so it was very good. It was very good. Mentuccia, little mint.
Little bit of mint like that, yeah, and a little bit of parmesan.
It was good.
If I'm going to be super critical, the pasta was a little bit lumpy sticky and stuck together today. Yeah. I don't mean to be,
I think we waited maybe too much when, I don't know, but as we approach Romagna, we're going to stop in Romagna because we have a long transfer. What are we going to have? You remember?
Sandwich.
No. Piadina, Ned.
What is piadina?
Okay. Just have a Google research, piadina.
I thought it was a sandwich. I'm going to find out, though. We've got a long drive today, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please continue to spread the word, like and subscribe and all that. But for now,
it's ciao.
And we're that good at that catchphrase. We've really nailed that now. Happy with that. Ciao.